Hi, welcome back to another episode of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michelle. This is the show where we talk about exceptional human encounters, the people who make them happen, and the actions that it takes to create them. Aligned with that today, we're going to be talking about hope for so many different reasons. I believe hope is one of the main ingredients in the action of creating an exceptional human encounter. And not everybody, I think this is really important to remember, not everybody is in the position to take actions of hope. People need support, encouragement, and real action taking on behalf of them. There are things happening in this country and around the world right now that have turned the most hopeful person into someone that's a little hopeless. But that doesn't have to stay that way. My hope and encouragement is that every person picks something that they can focus on where they can provide hope through support and action. My suggestion is, there's a thing that we can set up called Google Alerts. If you have a Gmail account, it's super easy to do, and you can set up topics to come into your email. So things that you are really aligned with and you want to know the latest, you can get all the information, every mention that this thing is happening and taking place. So don't rely on media and mainstream media to know what's going on, because things are happening that are not necessarily in the news. So I would set up an alert. For me, I would set up something on Flint, Michigan, how passionate I am about what's happened there, LGBTQ rights, the Electoral College, all of these things. Make a list and just focus on the things that you want to know what's going on, and then take actions to support what's happening there. What does some of these actions look like? Well, April happens to be the National Hope Month. Hope Month was established by a nonprofit in Florida called Mothers in Crisis in 1991. And here are some of the things that they suggested are ways that we can spread hope. You can volunteer to read to children in schools, maybe even in hospitals. Experience meaningful and healthy communication with loved ones, families, friends, and coworkers. I did not write that bullet in, but I definitely support that one. Giving time, food, and money to help families in need. Minister to those incarcerated by writing letters and visiting. Share your story of overcoming obstacles. Lending a helping hand to those in need. Cleaning up areas where there's trash, such as parks and beaches. And there's so many more. We could make a huge list of that, but those are just some of the ways that you can take actions of hope. And don't underestimate hope. Sometimes we hear people go, oh, that's not enough just to be hopeful. But especially, I think, when it comes to really thinking about how you can create a more exceptional encounter with people, the things that we talk about on the show. I believe when we make an effort to connect with other people, to really see and hear each other, we create a powerful fuel that is required to overturn injustices. We can't just be angry activists all the time. We need to be reminded of our humanity in an uplifting way so we can keep going and be reminded of what we're really living for and fighting for. So if you're watching today via live YouTube, in the chat your question is, or your thoughts for the day is, fill in the blanks on this. Today I'm hopeful because. Just think of something that you can be hopeful for. I'm hopeful today because I'm feeling really good. I'm excited to announce that I'm wearing this beautiful outfit by Eva Varro. There's many reasons why you don't see a lot of pictures of me through my social media other than for the day of the show. Usually I'm quite a mess. I'm running around just trying to get work done and find really amazing guests to be on the show, and generally speaking, just trying to stay caught up. And putting this on today, I had a little hope in my take. I feel like a lady and not a workhorse, because sometimes I just feel like that most of the time. And I'm really comfortable. Eva Varro, she picks only the softest, most durable, wrinkle-free fabrics, and she designs these standout wardrobe pieces that every woman can wear no matter their size or shape. So you'll be hearing me talk more about Eva in the weeks to come, and make sure to check out her website. The link is in chat right now. Now, you probably are wondering why so much hope, Stephanie? Why is this the big theme today? Well, this woman that's sitting with us today is the inspiration for our Hope Talk. Her name is Jen Slomak. She is a hope dealer, and she's going to tell us what that is. And it's really cool, and it's all her. She's a mentor, she's a writer, she's an educator, she's a performer and a producer, creating media to dismantle stigma and empower those who live in the margins of society. As an educator and a counselor, she has worked inside prisons, churches, and schools. Jen takes to the street and meets with those experiencing homelessness and the many challenges that accompany it. She has witnessed the current systems and institutions often fail the people most in need of their help. She has also been seen on NBC, MTV-LOGO, and if you look closely, Comedy Central, because she's a funny woman. She's a long-term recovery from alcoholism. She's been sober since 2001. Jen's debut novel, Soul Not Skin, is inspired by true events. As a queer woman longing for a faith community, her road has been complicated but never deterred. Her faith journey continues as she creates, grows, and loves in Northern California, where she lives with her wife, Jessie, and their fur babies. Can you relate to that? She proudly calls a man named Ian her son. Yeah, that's you.
That's
all
really?
You. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, welcome.
Pretty cool. Thank you so much for having
cool.
me. Yeah,
it is pretty cool.
I'm so glad to be here.
So Jen, so when I rant sometimes in the beginning of like, hey, these are all things on my mind, I always want our guests to have a chance to do that too. So is there anything pulling your attention that you just want to get off your chest?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It has to do with hope.
Yes.
I hope my phone is turned off.
We will know.
Yeah. So that was on my mind, pulling at my mind. So I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. So we'll know. It's okay.
No, but overall, I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad to be, joining you. I've seen your show, and I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the kind of media that you're putting into the world, and I think it's really necessary.
Yeah.
And I think it's really courageous, to have conversations that inspire.
Yeah.
I do refer to myself as a hope dealer. It's not my own term. I wish I made it up, but I stole it. And I'm not sure where I stole it from, but somebody else came up with it and called themselves that. And I fell in love with it.
What does it mean to you? Like, how would you describe being a hope dealer?
Well, I spent a lot of time with people who are in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And so I'm pretty sure I heard it from somebody who used to be a dope dealer, who now calls themselves a hope dealer. Because hurt people and healed people heal people. And so one of the things that I've come very close to in my own life, as well as in the lives of those that I spend time with, is without hope, why do things today? Right? What is the motivation if I don't have hope for tomorrow? And far too many people, I'm just going to leave it there, far too many people lack hope that anything can change for them, right? And we have such expectations put on us from our upbringing, from society, from ourselves, from our parents, from our religion, from our education, whatever the case. We have expectations put on us of what we're supposed to be. And the challenge for me has always been, and continues to be, trying to take some of that off that the world has put on me and allow the me I was born as to come through and shine, right? I feel like God needs each of us to fully express himself. And when I'm stuck in what the world thinks I ought to be, then I'm blocking spirit.
Yeah. Hiding your light.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, this little light of mine.
Well, let's talk. So you started to hint, there's a pretty strong faith story in your background. So let's talk about your childhood. And you were a daughter of a preacher.
I still am.
Still am. Okay, talk about that.
Well, I was born to a minister and his wife. I mean, he wasn't a minister when I was born, but he became one, and the Presbyterian faith. And we lived in a happy little house or two, first in Indiana, then in Illinois. And
Western ladies in the house.
Yeah. And things were good. Things were good, and life was good, and church was good, and then at about 10 years old, other things started rearing their head in our family. Some of it had to do with alcohol. Some of it had to do with abuse. Some of it had to do with divorce. And those type things really began to shift the trajectory of our family and the trajectory of my own relationship with God, because I felt like when I was a little girl, I sort of was just happy. And then the church gave me language. Remember I said like how you get things put on you? The church gave me ideas and language that didn't feel right all the time. But I took it because that's what you do when you're little and you're dependent on the big people in your life. You say, okay. And so then I became this little girl who needed to find her way back to that original joy around the language and around the ideas. I lose the track of thought sometimes. I think I just did that.
That's okay.
What was your question?
What was your childhood like? Or
Yeah.
I mean, what if someone asked you, okay, what were some of the pivotal moments of your childhood that makes you the woman you are today? Could you answer that question?
Sure.
Yeah.
My mom and I singing into hairbrushes with my brothers, watching my mother put makeup on in the mirror, watching my father minister from the podium, going to Springfield, Illinois, when I won the Young Authors Contest in 3rd grade with my dad.
Yeah.
My dad typed it for me. My mom illustrated it for me. I don't think that they allowed that, but there it is. And Dad and I took a horrifically uncomfortable bus ride to Springfield, Illinois, and I was awarded a certificate for being a Young Author Contest winner.
That's awesome.
Those things stand out to me, you know, playing with my brothers, you know, sneaking opening Christmas gifts, you know, and not getting away with it at all. You know, there's a lot of good memories. And then, if I'm honest, looking back in hindsight, I'm able to uncover a lot of the pain and how it began around the divorce and around the family breaking and not understanding who goes with who and what's okay and how that changes.
We have that in common too, the same age, 10.
Yeah. It's big.
You know, where are you and your siblings? Are you?
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle. Me too.
Stop it.
Yeah.
They were both on the blue couch.
Yeah.
There must be something to that.
I have 2 sisters named Jen.
Come on.
Yeah. One's my stepsister. One's her.
Oh, I was going to say, they did that?
Yeah.
They're just like,
Yeah, they did
girl.
that. We'll have to. Yeah. Anyhow.
Great name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smart parents.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's being in the middle, and I was raised with an older brother and a younger brother, and then when my father remarried, he married a woman who had a son who was 3 at the time, and then they had a daughter together, and so I have a stepbrother and a half sister, and I'm very fortunate to be in connection with all of my family today. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
For all of us, right?
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Like, so we've heard the good stuff and, you know, some of the foundational elements of your faith, and then was there something that shifted it?
Oh yeah. I think it started with the separation of the family, and it was further enhanced by discovering that I was attracted to a girl in my math class my freshman year of high school, while I was dating a football star. So yeah, that confused things a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
And could you talk to your family, or you kind of kept that? Did you have anybody that you could talk to?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Not anybody that I felt safe talking to. It was one of those things. I was in the Midwest, you know, Bellwood, Illinois, West Chicago, Illinois. I was in these places where nobody talked about it, and it was in the absence that I sort of filled in those blanks with shame. There just wasn't a me, and so I needed to figure that out, right? And I had already detached from my relationship with joy or my relationship with God because I felt like our family broke, and Dad still ministered, so God must be with Dad. And Mom still prayed with us, Mom still sang with us, Mom still loved us and had God in the home. But really, I think what started to happen is the more I realized my feelings towards a female, and I started to learn a little bit about what that was in my, you know, there wasn't much to look at. Ellen wasn't out. Melissa Etheridge wasn't out. There was a show in 1978 with Gina Rollins that was really had a huge effect on me in the 90s when I saw it, about a woman who was fighting for custody of her son after a divorce, and she had fallen in love with another woman. And Nancy McKeon played the daughter in that story when she was a little girl. So the long and short of it is there wasn't much to look at, but what I did find I knew to be quiet about. I knew not to bring it up. I had sensed that it wasn't something that was going to be received well. And so, it became one of my biggest secrets, and it became one of my biggest shames, and that's the thing about being a young girl who loves God and then loves girls, is that was sort of somewhere in the divorce and the being gay and the loving God, somewhere in that, it was severed.
Yeah, you had to compartmentalize to kind of let these parts of you still live.
Absolutely.
In a way.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying it's exactly right, compartmentalizing. And I think this is a thing that I hope to generate from my book and from being on the show with you, and I think you're doing this already, and that is, we all know the closet. The closet is not just for gay people. The closet is this place where we are silenced in our shame of anything. We've all had different experiences with it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm accepted in my group of friends that are black, but I'm half white. And I don't want anyone to know. Or maybe I don't want to work in my dad's business like the men for 4 generations have in the family business. Or maybe I fell in love with the Jewish man and I was raised evangelical Christian. I mean, maybe I don't want to wear dresses. I'm more comfortable in boots, like whatever the thing is that has us feeling like an other growing up. That creates a closet for us, and that's a human experience. And my experience has been, because I'm gay, one of the most tragic things that I've seen take place is that the gay community, myself in particular, I'm only going to speak for myself, though I've seen it beyond myself, we're basically taught that God doesn't love us. And that's a tragic thing, because people are a mess. In general, we are a mess, right?
Yes.
Because we're all trying to figure ourselves out, and we bump into each other in the process, right? Oh, sorry, and we don't always apologize. Sometimes we just vomit and move, right? And the vomiting leaves trauma behind.
Yes.
And somebody absorbs that, and somebody has to navigate that for the rest of their lives. And my experience has been, while being in community is useful and helpful and necessary, while learning about trauma and all of these different things is helpful and useful. For me, I've had to be able to reach up through all of the mess that people are and believe in something far greater than myself to align with my true lived experience. So my relationship with spirit has had to be intact in order for me to survive the closet that I was in. And the tragedy that I've seen and the tragedy that I've experienced is the gay community is often, we have a tendency in our humanity to stick pins in people. Where we see a defect, or where we see a shortcoming, or where we see a moment of exploration, we stick a pin in somebody and we say, you are that, and therefore you do or don't get to be here.
Which is so,
and we're fluid.
Yes, it's so that we talked about this in one of our calls, which is so ridiculous, because to me, I just look at this and go, growth is a natural order of things.
Absolutely.
It's just natural. You're just going to grow in and out of stuff, and you grow in and out of different identities, really. I'm a business person. No, I'm not. I'm an artist. There's all kinds of things outside of gender that, this is why I think that your story is amazingly relatable, because we all can connect to that. But to be pinned at to the worst moment of your life, or a decision that was maybe good, but you've moved on from that. But just to be pinned at all, first of all, that sounds very painful, and second of all, it's just not natural. It's really just not natural. We're growing. I mean,
and that's the thing, right? Is that when we do get pinned, and we've all done it. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm not free of having pinned somebody, right? Or having them stuck in the idea of them that I had. But if we aren't allowed to process our own journey, if we feel like a part of our journey is so bad that we don't deserve to go on the rest of it, then we have no hope, and we hurt. And when we hurt others.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about where did you start to kind of shift and really move from under the shame, or to bring all these areas of you together? Like, are there moments that you kind of look back and go, oh, that was really important, that was the first step?
Oh, for sure. It has not been one event. It has been a long process. I'm still in it. I expect that I'll be in it for the rest of my life. But little bits and pieces. When I found Melissa Etheridge music, that gave me hope. When I learned about Bayard Rustin being behind the civil rights movement, that gave me hope. When I learned about James Baldwin and his writing, that gave me hope. When I learned about, and any of these things, there was a guy on Donahue back in the day. And the Flirtations, I think the show, that he was in a group called the Flirtations. He had a song called, forgive me, I can't for the life of me. We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
But anyway, he sang a song. He was dying of AIDS. This was in the middle of the AIDS crisis. And he sang a song, Love Don't Need a Reason. And he sang it at the piano. He was a very effeminate-looking man, and he sang the song, and I remember sitting nose to glass on the screen and listening to it. I recorded it on a tape, and I listened to it over and over again because that gave me hope, right? I started shifting when, I think two big things for me were one, when I started drinking, and two, when I started performing comedy. I did stand-up comedy for many years. And a big challenge for me was, sadly, I used comedy as a therapy for a little bit, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's that moment, right?
Well, sure. It's that moment,
like,
right.
You didn't pin yourself to it, like, it's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
So really, I went through this process, and I was angry. I was an angry comic with a beer bottle and a cigarette in my hands, and I was ranting about the police, or ranting about racism, or ranting about some of the things that just broke my heart and upset me. And what ultimately happened is, between doing comedy in Chicago and New York and here in Los Angeles, I started getting booked more frequently in rooms that were predominantly Black comics. And I started little by little. I had always had different sets that I did in different places. Gay bars, white bars, Black bars, clubs, anything. I started realizing that I needed to have one set. And so that process was a huge piece of me owning and adoring all of me.
I love hearing that. There's just something so powerful in that. Like that, because before you were kind of doing to appease different groups, and then you came into your own power and just did it. And
you make it sound so simple.
It's not simple. I know it's not simple. I mean, but I can relate to this too, and just in language and words. And I'm a career marketing person. I'm always thinking about how to communicate to a certain group, and it does flow into my personal life because I will and I take care of things. So I'm always like, their experience first, not mine. And there's been a couple situations, and I'm going to get into it, but where I had to go, well, if I'm the giver of this experience, I have to make sure my experience is good too. It's back to kind of what you're saying when you go like this and connected to faith, like something has to pull you through all of that. If you have no energy here, you can't help here. So being in your authentic space, it's powerful.
I remember I did one show at the Comedy Union, and Tony Rock was hosting, and I was the only female, I believe, that night, and the only white person that night, and it was a sea of Black faces, which I'm very actually at home in, more so than a sea of white faces, just because I was raised around Black folks. So I was very comfortable, but I also knew that there are sort of lines that separate the things that I can talk about in different places, right? Like, I'm not going to go to a church and talk about being gay, not at that time. And so a lot of times when I'm speaking to a Black audience, I'm aware of the affinity to the church. And so I was nervous, but I promised myself I was going to go up there and do my whole set. And I did. And there was a hush. It was really quiet in the room. And I was done. That was it. And so Tony, bless his heart, jumped up on the stage and he goes, let's send a round of applause, another round of applause for Jen. And I got off stage and he's clapping and everybody else is kind of following his lead, shifting at least. There's rustling in the room. And he looked at them and he said, you know what? Come on. That girl has comedy balls. And he started laughing and everybody started hooting and hollering, and people came up to me after the show and they said, you know, I couldn't believe you said some of the stuff that you said.
Yeah.
And it was just my truth.
Yeah.
You know, I was just talking about being gay and loving God.
Yeah.
Or being an alcoholic and having to get sober.
Yeah.
I was talking about the things that we don't talk about. And I want to do more of that. I want to have the difficult conversations because there's freedom in relating with other people, Relatable host. Did you know that?
This is the first I've heard.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
We discover things when we have conversations.
We do.
It's awesome.
We do. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, and it's such the art of conversation, not even the art, just the conversation, just having a conversation, right? Such a thing that we take for granted, but this is like the absolute way that we've learned every lesson in our lives. Like everything was communicated to us as a child, you know, things that we've had to learn, things that we've had to unlearn, you know. We have to continue to do this.
Yeah, like touch.
Yeah.
Like connect.
Yeah, yes.
You know, really connect.
Yes.
It's so important.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's why we're
so
here.
important.
For anyone, so I want to put something out there around that's encouraging around faith. I can relate to your story because I've been pulled in and out of my own faith, and we've talked about this, that because there are things that you take and you're like, I just don't feel this. This doesn't feel right. I know it says here in this Bible and you're interpreting it in this way, but this does not feel right to me. So how, like anyone that's struggling with that and that's like thinking about just throwing out the faith, like what would you say to a person that's...
Don't give up on God. Go directly to the source and get to know it for yourself, right? You know, and call it what you're able to call it. It is, right? Yeah. If there's an apple on the table and there's 5 people who speak different languages and they all say apple in their language, it doesn't make it any less an apple.
Yeah.
It is an apple. And we learn it and we come to it and we are in relationship with it in the way that we need to. And I made the mistake that a lot of people make when we're growing up and when we're children and we're just sort of absorbing the world around us, is I took other people's ideas of things as my own. And it gave me a starting point. But I didn't learn when I was young that, and I may have been taught it, to be fair, I may have been taught this, but I didn't learn that I had the right to choose what was authentic for me. My relationship with God has been necessary. It has been, I found God outside of the church. Even, you know, when I was a little girl, before I started going to church, I remember just joy, and that's what God is to me, is joy. Yeah. You know, love, peace,
grace. I talk about grace a lot. Like those experiences where you're like, I know you didn't know what you just said, how impactful that was. Like that's something bigger that just happened. Like grace became, yeah.
When we're open to each other, in spite of difference, in spite of fear, in spite of anxieties, all of which are part of the human condition and will not go away. Yeah. But if we can stay aware of the way that the things that make us human try to set up blockades between ourselves and others, and we can reach up to faith or to spirit and ask for the courage to walk up and spend 15 minutes talking to a homeless person who is not clean and who is babbling, and just look at them and find God in them and tell them that you see them and that you want to know their name. If we can walk up to a drunk in their cups and spend 10 minutes of our precious time saying kind things to them, if we can reach past our humanity, if we can find the courage and the strength that for me comes from my faith or from spirit, to step outside of the human experience for long enough to connect with the spirit of another, then we're doing tremendous good in this world. And fear of each other and the idea of each other is a wonderful tool that is readily available and used frequently in this world, not always by evil people, just by people, by the human race. Fear is, we're rich with fear.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful tool to build walls between us and between my safety and the threat that I believe you pose to that.
Yeah.
And the truth is, any one of us could switch places with each other in an instant.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to be a woman in recovery because I've learned that through the way that alcohol took me near death, right? And then working with folks in prison and work, I've learned so much from people who have had to maintain hope when there isn't any. When you don't want to drink anymore because you see what it's doing to your relationships, you see what it's doing to your family, you see what it's doing to you, to your own idea of who you want to be, and you can't, and you're thinking about how you need to stop, and you're pouring it down your throat. I mean, if that doesn't teach you that this human experience is limited in the power that you can operate with,
Yeah. And do you, with faith, do you find like the surrender prayer of just like, I don't have this, like in that moment of like, I just need help. I mean, I'm doing this. I'm hearing myself say I shouldn't be doing this, but obviously I can't do it alone. I need help. Stop.
Man, I'd love to say that I was just like, I realized it and I put it down and it was good.
Yeah.
But man, sometimes I drank when I didn't want to drink. For many, many years I did. And then I found a fellowship of people who also had that trouble. And so I would then find the courage to share with them when I wanted to drink and instead of drinking. And then I became the person that somebody who couldn't stop drinking was able to talk to when they needed to drink. And it's this sort of mentorship that we have the capacity to build with each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be around drinking. I like to live that way.
Yeah.
I wish more of us lived that way, right? We get ours and we protect it instead of trying to get ours and then share it, right? And I'm not perfect at it.
No, I mean, well, I think that's one of the things you as a hope dealer are really talking about too. It's like, it's not a perfect moment. You're not going to have all the answers in one prayer and it's an evolving work in progress and allow yourself to love that work in progress. I mean, we're all work in progress.
Right.
I mean, newsflash, like nobody is like, this is it. This is me. I'm done. Done. Like, but it's really loving yourself through that work in progress, and a relationship with Spirit and God is one of the best ways to like acknowledge that you're still growing and learning, that the Spirit is kind of evolving in you.
And it's really interesting because I was listening to an audiobook and it was talking about spiritual abuse. That as children, a lot of times children there's physical, mental, sexual, and spiritual abuse. And spiritual abuse is often the least frequently discussed, but can be one of the most impactful. And they were talking about how when a child is taught that God is judgmental and angry and critical, instead of loving and compassionate and welcoming, that is a form of abuse. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody who believes that is true is an abusive individual across the board. There's no blanket statements from me. And if I ever make one, please call me on it, because I know better. I don't always speak better than that. But the reality is, when a little person is given the impression that God doesn't love them, they don't then develop the courage to take risks in faith.
So they can't even grow their faith.
Can't grow it. They won't grow it.
It just goes back to where we started.
Yeah.
You need hope in everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the book.
Okay.
Tell me, when's it coming out? Just tell me a little bit more about the book. I know it's inspired by your story.
It's inspired by my story, but it's a novel. I went with fiction for a handful of reasons, one of which is, I don't know if I mentioned, but I had a drinking problem. so I don't remember everything. But also because...
And you're creative, and so you can
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to have the creative liberty of fiction.
Yeah.
To be able to take something that happened maybe in 97 and place it in 86 if it made more sense in the story, so that I wouldn't have to cover 10 years to cover that. So I wanted the flexibility that fiction offers to rearrange the story. Also, I love my family, and I wanted to give them an out if they needed it, you know? I said, when it's fiction, you can look at people and be like, I don't know what she's talking about. That must have been part of the book that she made up.
That character's
I
not
don't even know who that is. Yeah.
I hear you. I feel that.
I don't know how well it'll work, but there it is. That's my effort. The book is really just, it's done. I've got one last round of edits that I need to do in terms of making some final shifts in one or two places. And then I have to take on the task of publishing it, and this is a self-publishing endeavor, and I'm a little intimidated by it. If there's anybody out there who knows how to do it, who's willing to volunteer or receive payment once the book has become remarkably popular, then I would welcome the assistance. But in all seriousness, I hope to have it published to Amazon and to my website and Ingram Spark and all of that by the 12th. That's the hope.
This month.
That's what I'm hoping. Well, yeah, maybe.
I'm going to check on 19th. You. Okay. All right.
I'm going to have my part done by the 12th.
Well, you have to let me know so I can let everybody know.
Absolutely. Well, go to my website and you'll know what the timeline is.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah. I'm going to get a notice so I can let everybody else know too.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's a real labor of love, and frankly, I have so many more books bubbling up in me that I can't wait until this one is out so that I can focus on writing
They're like
the
babies,
others.
aren't they?
Yeah, right. And I'm still having labor pains. I'm done. Get it out of me.
Well, I hope it goes well. 19th, no, we'll say 12th or the 19th. We'll hear an update. I'll share an update with everyone.
Great. Thank you.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's see how much more we can learn about each other in this now, in this moment with each other. So this is our relational dice. One has all of our senses plus body language. And we just use our intuition to kind of like, hey, let's talk about this when something is rolled. And the other one is meant to help us. Like we can talk about wild stories, or we can dare each other to do something, or you can act something out. Yeah. We don't always follow this one. Okay, we always follow this one. This is the inspiration.
All right.
All right.
So I'm not scared of you.
I'm not scared. All right, so we got touch. And do this, mean what? So we can talk about like something that's happened, like that a touch. Hey, how would you interpret this? We can talk about anything. Like something.
Do you want to start?
If you have something that came up, I can always improvise, but I like it when the guest has something that.
Well, touch. I think touch is.
Just like touch.
I think touch is so important and so underrated.
Yeah.
And when I walked in today, I'm going to tell on you, may I?
That's fine.
When I walked in today, she asked me if she could hug me, because she said, we have to ask people these days, right? And I was like, I don't know. I just go in for the hug. I'm a hugger, but I can appreciate that, you know, and that's back to that fear thing.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have, because we want to honor each other and in our space. But for me, when you rolled touch, what came up for me was when I work in the jails and the prisons, there's this adamant guideline that we're not allowed to touch people who are incarcerated, and could get reprimanded, could get fired, could all of these things, and
no hugs, no
hugs, no touch. I was a teacher inside of the jail, right? So I was working with men and women who were incarcerated, sometimes for a little while before their court date. Sometimes in the prisons, I was dealing with folks who were in for life. And we were working in trauma-informed circles, process groups. But touch is so important. So I've learned to ask, particularly, I'm learning to ask first. But I often disobeyed my job's guidelines and would occasionally just touch somebody, because I think that in those environments it's so easy to lose your humanity because you have to protect yourself.
Touch is a form of active listening too, right? And we need the safety of being able to communicate and say our truths. And I think this, lets someone say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm listening. I want to learn more."
It grounds me.
Yeah, it's important. It's definitely important. I don't feel. I'm asking because I'm asking more because I don't care if I ask something that's a little vulnerable in the moment, as long if it allows a person to like actually, well, say yes or no, or like I like this or I don't like this, and we just know about that, and then we move on. Like, so I'm purposely asking more. Like I usually just hug people, but I'm purposely asking more just to see, is there something here? Like we just make assumptions, right? That everything's okay. I know a professional hugger that everybody assumes he wants to hug everybody, but when he's hugged, he might have like hugged someone all day, and he needs a little non-hugging zone, So it's just another way of like being in the moment and like getting to know people. I think just asking the question.
Well, and if I can take it one step further, I also need to say that without putting a pin in my experience of having been a teacher and being intentional about connecting with people. Yeah. I also recognize and realize, particularly now, I've learned that it's important to ask people if you may touch them, particularly when they have so few choices to make for themselves. They have so little agency in an environment like that. Yeah. That I could be triggering, it could be a male-female energy that I'm triggering, and they are not allowed to respond to it. Maybe I'm flattering myself, but in general, I'm saying that it is more respectful, I think, now.
And I think what we're both saying, you just don't know until you ask a question, and we both want to know. Like, we really want to.
I want to honor.
Yeah, honor people's space, time, what they need. Definitely. Do you want to roll it? Want to roll it?
Do I?
Yes. Something tells me Jen likes games. I don't know. Are you a good card player? Did you play euchre?
I know euchre.
See, this is Midwestern right here. We can talk about euchre.
What is that?
That's Taste or Mick Jagger's Mouth.
Right?
Whichever you prefer. So
you got to show them so they know what we're talking about. Can you see
Can you zoom in on that? Have we ever looked at that?
Mick Jagger's mouth. That's what we have to talk about, Mick Jagger's mouth. Did I bring it down too fast?
Good.
All right, good.
Okay. So we got this one just wants to keep showing up. So do this mean what? So like something regarding taste, what does it mean?
Okay.
We can disregard this one and just talk about, so taste is something that, it's a sense that we use to have a moment with people. Like, we meet for coffee, we have dinners, taste is probably in our memory bank attached to something that we've done to relate with someone. So it's an often forgotten sense that we have, but it's in a really important one. I feel the same way about scent too. But taste, so what can we talk about?
I have an idea.
You do? Good. Go for it.
Okay, so for me, what came up for me when you rolled Mick Jagger's mouth was, I have had to become more conscious about what I eat. Because the reality is the standard American diet will kill you about as quickly as a train could.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with that, and I learned to love sugar, and I learned to love fat and grease and salt.
Cheetos. I'm just seeing orange Cheetos for some reason.
Because that's one of my favorite snacks is the hot, fiery red Cheetos.
I don't know why I was pulling.
You felt it on me, man. I do. And plus, that's my road trip food, right? My wife tells me that when we're in the car, when we're going on road trips, we get to have road trip food.
Calories don't count on a road trip. Right?
Her dad always taught her that, and her sister, right? Yeah, she's good folks.
Yeah.
So I treated myself to a big Dr. Pepper and a huge bag of the Cheetos, the hot fiery Cheetos on my way here because it was a road trip. So there it is. And maybe you saw the red fingers.
I didn't. I did. Honestly, I just saw that. And this is the other reason why I do this, because it's like we don't practice intuition. We don't have enough opportunities to practice it. So I'm a visual person. If something pops into my mind, I'm just going to share it if it's ridiculous or not, because it's there. Like, this is another way that we can connect and relate with each other.
Totally.
What we're feeling. So yeah, Cheetos.
So what I was going to say is that having to change or choosing to change the way that I eat at first is very difficult, but like everything else, once I teach my body to eat natural sugars versus processed sugars, once I teach my body, and there's that period of time that's really uncomfortable, right, to make that change. But once I establish that as my normal, right, once I establish a new normal for myself around food and what I put in my body, then my body actually craves the new things.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
and you feel differently, right? You experience your body in a different way, and you're like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to, I ate the bag of Cheetos and how I felt, 2 hours later.
Yeah.
I want to have this.
That's right. I've got this habit now of, I loved Ben and Jerry's. Let's just have a moment for Ben and Jerry's.
Cheese, dairy, ice cream.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of it, sister.
Yeah, I got that.
So, as a woman in recovery and long-term recovery, sometimes I would say to myself, the big justification was, how good do I have to be? I can eat a pizza and a pint of ice cream. It's not liquor, right?
Yeah.
It's good. I even quit smoking cigarettes in 2006. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I can do whatever.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing is that I loved my Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah.
And I stopped loving the way that Ben & Jerry's fit in my jeans.
I gotcha.
You picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So looking at the dairy, looking at the sugar, looking at all of these things that I love so much, I had to find a different way, right? Now I can eat those things sometimes, but my nighttime snack now, because I love snacks, as you know, I asked, did I have time for a snack before the show? She's like,
she shared though. She wanted to share snacks with us.
She was, okay, what do you have to snack on?
What you got?
I have taken to buying big bags of frozen blueberries and big bags of frozen 3-berry mix. And I set them in a bowl, about a cup or two's worth, about an hour before I'm going to eat them.
Yeah.
And then I set them next to the TV, and we sit down, we have our nightly,
That's your snack.
Cuddle and TV watch,
That's
and
awesome.
I eat my berries, and I'm so happy.
That's awesome.
That's so silly.
But
it's wonderful.
But this is life.
I know.
This is what we do. These are like the little things that get us through. Yeah,
that's right.
I like crunchy stuff, so I have to find like healthy crunchy. It's the texture, like crunchy, and then I like ice cream too.
But I'm all about crunchy too.
Yeah.
And it's been very hard because crunchy is carbs most often. Right?
So it's like seeds. You just kind of go like seeds and nuts, and that's not even all.
No, sometimes I just get the Cheetos.
Yeah.
I say, how good do I have to be?
It's okay to have Cheetos once in a while.
Yeah, Cheetos rock.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Well, we rocked that. You nailed that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
That was great. So the last thing that we get to talk about before we move on to the social challenge of the week is exceptional human encounters. So when I say that phrase, what comes to mind to you?
People having the courage to be vulnerable.
People, that's a great definition of it.
Being able to admit openly that they don't know what they're doing.
It's always so binding, right? Like when someone just says in a moment, oh God, not my best self, or just something happens and you're really honest about it.
Yeah.
People rally around that.
Man.
There's nothing that unites people faster than that
It's
moment.
true.
My mom and I went to a taping of The Voice.
Oh, cool.
It was really cool. My mom was like in love with Blake Shelton. We were right there.
Yeah, Blake.
And so you'd watch these contestants come to the stage just full of nerves. I mean, you could just feel it from where you're sitting. And every part of you is like, I don't want you to fail. I want you to do really good. I want you to overcome that right now. And you could actually feel the collective whole of the studio audience. Like, we want this. We don't want to see you mess up. Like we really want to be here. It's such a binding, cool, exceptional human encounter moment when you feel people's energy.
What if we lived that way? What if we walked down the street and we weren't afraid that that could be me, but instead we valued you because it could be me? What if I took the risk to go and connect with you just briefly? I don't have to I don't have to sell everything and sit on the curb next to you. I don't have to choose the way that you're living. I don't have to, but knowing the circumstance that you're in, the anxiety that you're under, what if I met that with love? What if I just found the time or the energy or the courage to make you a priority, nervous, anxious, hurting person, and I just met you with love for 5 minutes? Not only is that going to serve the person that you've met, that's going to serve you. Father Gregory Boyle, he's a Jesuit priest. He actually he started the Homeboy Industries, which is around here, which I really wanted to go to today, but I didn't get a chance to connect with them and set that up. But Father Boyle, I would love to be invited. I'll be there.
I'd love for
whenever
him
you
to
invite
come
me.
here, actually.
Yeah,
like,
boy.
he's on my list. Actually.
If you get him, I want to hover.
You want to come back?
Please, yes,
Okay.
please.
You can hover.
Anyway, he says something, and forgive me if I butcher it, but the gist of it is we don't work with people on the margins just to help people on the margins. We work with people on the margins to change us. And I love that because it's been my experience.
Yeah.
Right? When we connect with vulnerability, when we model and exhibit humility and vulnerability, not to be meek, not to be weak, not to be naive, not to be powerless, right? But to be confident in my spirit, right? That I can reach and I can connect with you. It shifts everything, you know?
Yeah.
Circle of
if
influence.
we all did that, there wouldn't be marginalized society, right?
Yeah,
if we
not
all
as much.
took the time to really connect with people, you could be that. I think about that all the time when you talked about coming in here. We're in downtown Los Angeles. There's a lot of homelessness. There's a lot of
tents.
Yeah, a lot of devastation down here. And here, I think about, I'm not too far away from that moment at any time. I mean, really, like our healthcare system's not that great. I could have some sort of crisis, and I'm bankrupt. It's not hard how people end up in those situations or homeless. So stopping and just connecting with them and letting them know that you see them, everybody benefits from that.
Well, and that's the work that I've been doing for my day job, which I would rather do it as volunteer work because 40 hours a week, it's a lot. And frankly, I want to write. I want that to be my day job because I want to tell stories. I've lived enough of it now. That said, there's something about the criminal justice system being as broken as it is, the healthcare system being as broken as it is, the housing situation being what it is, all of those things. We need jails, we need prisons, because some people need to be locked up for a while. That's where some people hit their bottoms and recognize what's going on. And some people aren't well enough to be in society. Some people will be homeless. Even if we have the best health care, even if we have the best housing situation, some people will remain homeless. But there are so many people who are incarcerated that need not be. And there are so many people who are on the streets, many of whom are working poor, that need not be. That we could stand to connect with the humanity in each other and be of service to each other a little differently than we do today.
Definitely. I just want to pause for Jen gets deep fast.
I know.
Don't let this face trick you. like you go there, girl.
I know.
No,
it's a blessing and a curse.
But it needs to be said. I mean, it needs to be said, and I think we agree on this, and I know you'll elaborate, but I think sometimes we get so caught up on the big thing, how are we going to solve this big thing? And much to what you just said, we're not going to solve all homelessness, but it's the little steps. You can take a little step today, and then you can take another one. You can take another one tomorrow. That's really important, and don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
Don't take even just learning. Today, I'm not quite ready to step out in action of hope, but let me learn some of the things that I can do, and then start to allocate some time where I can volunteer or make a difference or donate a little bit here and there. The idea that I can't do enough because you're not in whatever situation that you've just pinned yourself to in that moment, it's just a moment.
Right.
You can do a little thing.
Yeah, and here's a big thing that's very little, right? Here's a big thing that's very little. We can't eradicate racism or homelessness. We can't get rid of these things. And so don't lose hope and just do nothing. You can do things like don't make negative comments about the homeless folks, right? If you feel driven to, instead challenge yourself to go and talk with some of them. Ask them about their family, about their story. Challenge yourself to take the risk to go and touch the humanity that is behind the thing you feel compelled to gossip about, right? That serves you as well. It seems like a small thing, but bite your tongue in your life when something derogatory about anyone whom you don't know the full story of, when that's about to come out of your mouth, bite your tongue. Ask God to help you love instead. Sometimes the most spiritual thing we can do is shut our mouth. And it's, it's in that accountability that we start to shift things. Because when we spew gossip and anger and frustration and judgment and categorizing, when that exists out there, it covers what's real. It exists as things to distract us from our hearts. And we can point at it all day long because we're fantastic blamers. We can point at it all day long. But let's stop putting out so much stuff to blame, and let's start taking responsibility for biting our tongue and connecting rather than judging. What if we did that? That doesn't cost a penny.
No. And it's fueling your love tank as much as it is for the person that you're doing. And then more energy, more connection to see things from a grander scale, I think.
And you know what the biggest barrier to God's work being done on this planet is? Us. Get over ourselves. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Stop making noise.
Yeah. Well put. Yeah. All right. You ready?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
Shoot.
I hear
That's
you.
what I'm talking about.
I feel like we have to do a
Come on.
a little fist bump or something.
You know? Come on, I got
this
one.
This is good stuff.
Boom.
This is good stuff.
Yeah, let's do a show together.
Yeah, we should.
I'm serious. I really am feeling it.
You're feeling it?
Uh-huh.
All right, you'll hear all about this later.
More to
part
come.
2. More to come. All right, last thing we get to do
Yes, ma'am.
together. Social challenge of the week.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so this is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You add to it, or tell me what you think. So I think there's probably areas in everybody's life where they're just not letting the light of hope shine in. So they might be hopeful. Really? No. Do you don't think that? Yeah.
Right.
They might be hopeful and I'm going to, eat healthier, but
Sure.
I'm not going to be hopeful about my relationships, or I'm not going to be hopeful about understanding faith in a different way than what's been told to me. All these are a new job, whatever it is. We can make a long list, right? So I like the idea of saying, okay, be willing to be vulnerable. This is a journaling exercise. I think it needs a timeline, maybe 7 to 14 days. I'm kind of leaning towards 14, so 2 weeks, where every day you wake up and say, I'm going to let hope in this area of my life. Now, the cool thing that I'm kind of thinking for this is sometimes we get really caught up in well, how? Don't even worry about the how. Just let it out there. Let it just release it out there so maybe spirit can pick up on it. Just say, I'm going to be hopeful about a new job today. Tomorrow I'm going to be hopeful about something else. What do you think?
I think it's great.
But
Yeah.
You have anything to add on that?
Hope and gratitude. I find that gratitude is the wingman of hope, or vice versa. And so if you're struggling to find where you want to let hope in today, then make a list of things you're grateful for. And when something comes to mind and you're like, I'm not going to put that down, that's your hope. That's the one to do hope on.
All right.
What do you think?
I like it. Yeah,
Cool.
we talk about gratitude a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to wake up and just say, I'm grateful for this.
Oh my
because
God.
It's going to be a tough day. You
Yeah.
know? I'm grateful that I have 2 feet that just hit the floor. I'm grateful for my little fluffy dog. I'm grateful for the sunshine. I'm grateful for clean running water. The basics that we take for granted. But yeah.
I work with folks who are experiencing homelessness in the Bay Area, and you'd be amazed what you can be grateful for. I had a woman who had soiled herself, was too weak to move, had been eating old cake, and is very coherent and capable of speaking and engaging. And I'll sit with her and talk with her, and she was grateful when she found a second spoon to share her cake with me.
Oh my goodness.
We need to get over ourselves.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's an exceptional human, Connor, right there.
Yeah. Build your life around them if you can.
Yes, that's what we're trying to do here.
know.
That's what we're trying to do.
I love it.
We're trying to do that. All right. Well, that does bring us to the end of the show. I'm so grateful that you came in and we had this conversation. And we could have we could probably make this a series, I'm sure, because there are many things. When she got here, like, oh, we could talk about this, we can talk about that, and we could. But I'm grateful that what came out is what happened.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for doing this. I know I said it at the beginning, but I'm saying it again. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I thank that guy?
Yes, you can. That guy is D, and we love him. Yeah.
D, thank you so much.
We need to thank D, because D educated me this morning about Nipsey Hussle. I'd read about his shooting, and I didn't know much about him, and D, really told me about his life and like how this young man was encouraging other people and building businesses and
connecting.
Connecting. So it is a huge loss that he's been lost in the community, and I'm thankful, Dee, that you told me about him, because now I have to listen to his music. I didn't know much about him, but
and we spoke too about, even in the absence of him physically, his spirit will live on, and the hope. And the challenge then is to find the courage to take the kind of action he was taking, along with the spirit that he left behind. Because that's the challenging piece, and that's what sets somebody like him out from the rest, is the ability to have the passion for his community, but also act on the desire to create change.
Definitely. Well, there you go. There's our full show. Thank you so much for being here. See, touch.
Are you ticklish?
I am.
Okay,
we can talk about that. We're going to talk about euchre after. That's a whole other thing.
Cool.
So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't signed up for my email yet, please do on StephanieMichelle.com. We're going to recap. Jen's the last one in the 4-week series. We'll recap what happened in the shows, the social challenges, so you can catch up with those things, and put a lot of conversational starters in there, because this is the kind of thing that we should be just doing with each other, your friends, your family, and coworkers. So lots of ways to really connect with people. So please sign up for that. And as always, I just want to encourage you to think about, how can you make an exceptional encounter happen today? See you next week.